The mining colony of Orion Outpost floated under the pale light of a dying sun. Built on the rocky surface of planet Varen 3, it was a place of constant work and quiet nights. Huge drills bored into the planet for rare minerals, and the air smelled faintly of metal and oil. For most of the workers, life here was simple: work, eat, sleep. Repeat. For Liam, a human maintenance worker from Earth, it was lonely. Humans were rare out here. Most of the colony's population was made up of alien species from different star systems: tall, scaled Zirith, short and fur-covered Dravi, and the graceful, silver-eyed Veari. Liam did his job well, fixing broken circuits, welding damaged hull plates, and repairing the noisy ventilation units that kept everyone alive. But when work ended, the silence in his small cabin felt heavier than the planet's weak gravity. He missed the sound of Earth, rain against windows, music from busy streets, even the chatter of neighbors. In the cafeteria, he usually sat at the corner table, eating his ration meal while listening to others speak in languages he barely understood. Sometimes, he would try to make small jokes in the trade language so at least a few people could laugh. That day was no different, at least at first. The cafeteria buzzed with the sound of voices and clinking trays. The smell of heated protein packs filled the air. Liam was kneeling near the wall, repairing a flickering communication panel. A few Zirith miners stood nearby, watching him work. One loose wire, Liam muttered to himself, tightening a connection with his tool. Always one loose wire. A Dravi worker leaned closer. Will it work again? Of course, Liam said with a small grin. If it doesn't, I'll give you my lunch. The Dravi laughed, his small fangs showing. Liam enjoyed moments like this, brief, friendly, easy. As he stood up and tested the panel, the light glowed steady. The miners clapped in approval. Feeling slightly braver, Liam made a casual joke, loud enough for the group to hear. Will anyone even marry me out here? He said, shaking his head with mock sadness. I fix everything, but no one wants a human husband. The Zirith miners roared with laughter, their deep voices echoing in the hall. A Dravi slapped him on the back, but among the laughter, one voice was quiet. At a table near the far wall sat Alara, a Veari scientist. Her skin had a faint shimmer of blue, and her silver eyes reflected the cafeteria lights. She was known for speaking very little, focusing instead on her research in the biology labs. Most people thought she didn't care much for social talk, yet now she looked directly at Liam, her head tilted slightly as if she was studying him. Then, in a voice so soft that only he could hear over the noise, she said, "Maybe me." Liam froze. The tool in his hand slipped slightly before he caught it. His mind went completely blank. Did she just? Alara did not laugh. She did not look away. She simply gave the smallest smile, almost like a secret, before returning to her meal. Liam tried to act normal for the rest of the repair, but his thoughts were spinning. The Veari were mysterious. They looked almost human, but their society was very different. They valued privacy and rarely spoke of personal feelings. They were polite, but distant. He had never seen a Veari make such a comment before, especially to a human. Maybe she was just being polite. Maybe she was teasing him. Or maybe she was serious. The idea made his heart beat a little faster. Later that evening, after work hours, Liam walked the outer observation deck. The deck was a narrow corridor with thick glass walls, showing the endless view of Varen 3's rocky plains and the distant horizon where the two moons were rising. The stars above were brighter here than anywhere on Earth, but somehow the beauty only made him feel smaller. He thought about Alara's smile, the way her voice had been calm, almost thoughtful. Liam wasn't the kind of person to imagine things. Life in space was hard enough without daydreams, but something about those two words, "maybe me," kept replaying in his mind. The next morning, when he went to the cafeteria for breakfast, he saw her again. She was sitting alone, as usual, reading something on her datapad. Liam hesitated for a moment before walking past her table. Their eyes met briefly. She gave a polite nod. Nothing more. No hint of yesterday's strange moment. Liam sat down at his own table, wondering if he should just forget about it. But deep down, he knew he wouldn't. That day marked the start of something he didn't understand yet, a quiet pull towards someone who was supposed to be completely different from him. And though Liam didn't know it, the simple joke he had made in the noisy cafeteria would become the first step in a story that neither human nor Veyari had ever experienced before. The next few days on Orion Outpost passed in their usual rhythm. The rumble of mining drills deep underground, the faint hum of the life support system, and the glow of the artificial lights that marked day and night inside the colony. For Liam, however, nothing felt quite the same since that moment in the cafeteria. Maybe me. Those two words had taken root in his mind, returning at the strangest times. While he was tightening bolts on a ventilation shaft, while he was walking the long metal corridors, even while brushing his teeth before sleep. It wasn't just the words. It was the way Alara had said them, calm, steady, without a trace of a joke. Liam had always noticed Alara in passing. She worked in the science wing, usually wearing the pale silver coat of the Veyari researchers. She moved gracefully, always focused, her expression unreadable, while other workers gathered in groups to talk or share stories. Alara preferred quiet corners or the soft glow of a datapad screen. He had seen her speak to others only when necessary, quick, precise exchanges about lab work or mineral samples. She never seemed to linger in conversation. So why had she spoken to him like that? On the third day after the cafeteria moment, Liam's maintenance schedule brought him to the science wing. The air here was cooler, cleaner. Rows of glass containers glowed with soft blue light, holding alien plants collected from the planet's surface. Strange devices hummed softly, and screens displayed flowing streams of data. Liam had been called to repair a climate regulator in one of the smaller labs. When he stepped inside, he froze for just a moment. Alara was there. She stood beside a table, examining a delicate plant with translucent leaves. Her silver eyes flicked to him briefly, and she gave a small nod. "You are here for the regulator?" she asked, her voice quiet but clear. "Yeah," Liam said, setting down his toolkit. "It's not keeping the right temperature in here. Might be a faulty coil." She stepped aside, giving him space to work. For a few minutes, the only sounds were the soft click of his tools and the gentle hum of the machines. Then, unexpectedly, she spoke again. "Do humans always joke about marriage with strangers?" Liam almost dropped his wrench. Not always," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "It was just a joke to make people laugh." Alara tilted her head, studying him. "It did make them laugh, but I did not laugh." "Yeah, I noticed," Liam said with a nervous chuckle. "You've said something else?" Her silver eyes didn't waver. "Yes, I said, maybe me." "You did not respond." Liam hesitated, unsure how to explain himself. "I didn't know if you were serious." "Do you want me to be serious?" she asked simply. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. His brain felt like it was trying to run into directions at once. "I don't know," he admitted finally. "I wasn't expecting it." Alara gave the smallest smile, the same almost secret smile she had worn in the cafeteria. Then she looked back at her plan. "Humans value connection," she said. "I have read about it in your culture records. You form close bonds. Even with those who are not family, you call this friendship, and sometimes marriage." "That's true," Liam said cautiously. "It's important to us. It makes life better." Alara's gaze returned to him, thoughtful. "My people do not form such bonds often. We share knowledge, resources, and duty, but we live apart even when working together. I do not understand why humans give such importance to this connection, because without it," Liam said slowly, "life feels empty, even if you have everything else." For a moment, neither spoke. Then Alara gestured to the plant on her table. "This plant," she explained, "is called Sarath Bloom. It cannot survive alone. If separated from its root cluster, it wilts within days. But when it grows beside others, they share energy through invisible threads. Alone, it dies. Together, they live." Liam studied the delicate plant, its thin leaves trembling under the soft air current. "Sounds like humans," he said. Quietly, Alara's silver eyes lingered on him for a moment longer. Then she turned back to her work. When Liam finished fixing the climate regulator, he packed up his tools and paused at the door. "Thanks for explaining about the plant," he said. She didn't look up from her datapad, but he thought he saw her. "Smile again." "You're welcome, Liam." It was the first time she had spoken his name. That evening, Liam walked the outer observation deck again. The stars stretched endlessly above, and the two moons of Varen 3 shone brightly against the black sky. But this time, the loneliness he usually felt here was mixed with something else, curiosity. Alara was unlike anyone he had met on the outpost. She was quiet, direct, and seemed untouched by the gossip and noise of colony life. Yet she had noticed him, chosen to speak to him, and she was asking questions not about his work, but about his people, his culture, the way humans lived and loved. He didn't know what it meant yet, but he knew one thing: he wanted to see her again. The next day, fate seemed to agree with him. His morning repair assignment took him back to the science wing. This time, Alara wasn't working alone. A tall Xerath scientist stood beside her, discussing something in low tones. But when Liam walked in, her gaze flicked toward him for just a second, enough to make his pulse quicken. She didn't speak to him then, but that single glance told him she hadn't forgotten their conversation. And as he left the lab, Liam realized that the mystery of Alara wasn't just about her words anymore. It was about the way those words had started to change him. The artificial lights of Orion Outpost were dimming into the evening cycle. When the first alarm began to sound, at first, Liam thought it was a drill, the soft, rising tone that signaled a minor warning. But then the lights flickered sharply, and the hum of the life support system dropped to a low, uneven rumble. A voice came over the loudspeakers in the colony's trade language. "Warning. Solar flare detected. External radiation shields engaged. Secondary systems unstable. Remain in designated safe zones." Liam's eyes widened. Solar flares were dangerous. They could overload power systems, disrupt communication, and even damage the thin protective shielding that kept them alive on Varen 3's surface. He grabbed his toolkit and headed for the engineering bay, where emergency teams were already gathering. The chief engineer, a tall Xerath named Goran, waved him over. "Ventilation control is failing in the East Science Wing," Goran barked. "The backup systems aren't responding. If the temperature regulation fails, the lab's specimens will die, and half the wing will become unsafe for workers." Liam nodded quickly. "I'll go." He didn't even think about why his first thought was of Alara. The corridors felt different in emergency lighting. The usual bright panels were replaced with red warning strips along the walls, and the hum of machines was mixed with the faint crackle of shield generators, straining under the solar flare's energy. When Liam reached the East Science Wing, he found several scientists trying to stabilize their equipment. And there, standing in front of a malfunctioning console, was Alara. Her calm expression didn't match the chaos around her. She was typing commands into the console, but the screen flashed error over and over. "You're here," she said simply. When she saw Liam, "Ventilation controls offline," he said, moving to the panel beside her. "If the air temperature climbs, we've got more than just plants to worry about." She stepped aside, watching as he opened the panel and began tracing the power lines. "Solar flare interference?" she asked. "Yeah," Liam replied, tightening a loose connection. "The surge is messing with the backup regulators. If I can reroute the current." The sudden shudder went through the building, and the lights flickered again. The hum of the ventilation slowed even more. The temperature display on the wall ticked upward, from 21°C to 25°C in just seconds. "We don't have long," Alara said, her voice still calm but now more urgent. "Then give me that stabilizer." "You need," Liam said, pointing to a small device on the table. Without hesitation, she handed it to him and crouched beside the panel, holding a light so he could see. Their hands brushed as he took the unit, and for some reason, the contact steadied him. They worked quickly, speaking in short bursts. "Cut power to line 2. Done. Bypass the relay here." "Here?" "Yes, perfect." The air around them grew warmer, But Liam forced himself to focus, finally, with one last twist of his tool. The panel gave a sharp click. The hum of the ventilation returned, steady and strong. The wall display began to drop back toward normal temperature. A cheer went up from a few of the scientists still in the room. Alara looked at the display, then at Liam. "You work well under pressure," she said. "So do you?" He replied, standing up and brushing dust from his sleeves. The solar flare kept the colony on alert for several more hours. Liam stayed in the science wing, helping where he could, stabilizing power to equipment, checking seals on storage units, and making sure no other systems failed. Alara stayed close, not in a way that slowed him down, but in a way that made it easier to work. She didn't waste time with unnecessary words, but she anticipated what tools he'd need before he asked. When the final alarm was lifted, the entire outpost seemed to exhale. Later, as they walked down the quiet corridor toward the crew quarters, Liam glanced at her. "You didn't have to stay in there with me the whole time," he said. "You could have gone to the safe zone like the others." "I know," she replied simply. "So why did you stay?" They stopped walking, standing in the soft glow of the quarter lights. She met his gaze, her silver eyes reflecting faintly. "Because you stayed," she said, for a moment. The hum of the carter's machinery faded into the background. Liam felt a warmth in his chest that had nothing to do with the earlier temperature spike. When they reached the junction where their paths split, Alara paused. "Your people," she said slowly, "value those who do not leave in difficult times." "Yes, yeah," Liam said, smiling faintly. "We call that loyalty." She considered the word. "Loyalty," she repeated softly, almost as if testing its weight. Then she gave a small nod and walked away toward the science wing. That night, lying in his small cabin, Liam couldn't stop thinking about the day. He thought about the red emergency lights, the heat rising in the lab, and the way they had worked together without hesitation. He also thought about the way she had said, "because you stayed." It wasn't a declaration. It wasn't even an obvious compliment. But for someone like Alara, someone who measured her words so carefully, it meant something. And Liam realized he wanted to understand exactly what it meant. The days after the solar flare passed quietly, but for Liam, something had changed. He found himself looking for Alara more often in the cafeteria and the science wing. Even on the observation deck, sometimes he only caught a glimpse of her as she moved between labs, her silver eyes focused on a datapad. But other times she noticed him and gave a small, polite nod. It wasn't much, but it was enough to make him feel seen. One evening, after finishing a long shift repairing a faulty mining drill, Liam decided to take a walk on the outer observation deck. The deck's long glass wall looked out over Varen 3's rocky plains, far in the distance. The planets and moons were rising, one pale white, the other a soft gold. The stars here seemed endless. Back on Earth, city lights had always hidden most of them, but here, in the quiet of space, they filled the sky completely. He wasn't alone. Alara was standing near the far end of the deck, her hands clasped loosely behind her back. She was staring out at the horizon, her posture straight but somehow calm. Liam hesitated for a moment, then walked over. "Mind if I stand here?" he asked. "You may," she said without looking away from the view. For a few moments, they just stood, side by side, the silence comfortable. "You like it out here?" Liam asked. "Yes," Alara said softly. "It is one of the few places on the outpost where there is space to think." Liam nodded. "Same for me. It's quiet, helps me sort things out." In my head, her gaze shifted toward him slightly. "Are there many stars on your world?" "Yes and no," he said. "There are a lot of stars above Earth, but in the cities, you can't see them all. Too much light in the sky out here. Though, this is different." She gave a small sound, almost like agreement. After a pause, Alara spoke again. "My people, the Veari, do not spend much time looking at the stars. We know they are there, but we do not connect to them the way humans do. To us, the sky is a map, a set of coordinates. Nothing more." Liam glanced at her. "Sounds lonely, perhaps," she said, her voice calm but thoughtful. We value independence from birth. Very children are taught to live alone. We cooperate when needed, but our lives are separate. We do not live in family units as humans do. We do not form strong attachments. Liam thought about that for a moment. So, no close friends? No. Partners? She shook her head slightly. Rarely. A bond like that is seen as a distraction from one's duty. It is not forbidden, but it is uncommon. They stood in silence again for a while, the moons now higher in the sky. Finally, Liam spoke. Then why? He stopped, unsure if he should finish the question. Alara turned her head toward him. Why am I speaking with you? He gave a small smile. Something like that. Her eyes held his for a long moment. Then she looked back at the horizon. Because you are different, she said simply. You speak to others even when there is no need. You try to make them laugh. You share parts of yourself without expecting anything in return. This is unusual to me and interesting. Liam felt warmth creep into his chest. That's just how humans are. We like making connections. Yes, she said. I have studied human records. You value connection even when it is temporary. You speak of love, loyalty, friendship. These things are given importance equal to survival. That's true. Liam said, for us, connection is part of survival. Alara's gaze softened, though her voice stayed calm. When you worked in the science wing during the solar flare, you did not think of yourself first. You thought of protecting the lab and the people in it. That is loyalty. And when you stood in the cafeteria and made a joke to make others laugh, even when you felt alone. That is something my people do not understand. Liam smiled faintly. And that's why you said what you said that day. Her lips curved into the smallest smile. Perhaps. The conversation slowed, but neither of them moved away. The glass wall stretched endlessly before them, the stars shining like cold fire in the distance. After a while, Liam said, on Earth, when people want to spend their life with someone, they make a promise. Marriage. That's what I was joking about in the cafeteria. No, Alara said. I read about this after you spoke of it. A promise made not for duty, but for choice, to stay with one person even when not required. Exactly, Liam said. It's about wanting to be there. She looked at him again, her silver eyes catching the light of the moons. My people do not have such a word, but I think I understand. A soft hum from the deck speakers announced the start of the night cycle inside the colony. Dim lights came on along the floor, casting a gentle glow. Liam looked out at the stars one last time before turning back to Alara. So, does this mean you're proposing? He asked, half joking. Her smile was quiet, almost unreadable. Not yet, she said, but perhaps I am considering. He laughed softly, shaking his head. You really know how to keep a guy guessing. Guessing, she repeated thoughtfully. Yes, that seems human. As they left the observation deck together, Liam felt something shift, not a dramatic change, but the slow, steady movement of two people who had started to understand each other, and though he still didn't know exactly where this would lead, he knew one thing for certain. Alara was no longer just a quiet scientist in the background. She was someone he wanted to know, someone who, in her own quiet way, might already be letting him in. The next week on Orion Outpost started like any other. Mining teams rotated shifts. Cargo ships came and went, and engineers like Liam kept the colony's fragile systems running. But something had changed. People were watching him. It wasn't just in his imagination. In the cafeteria, conversations seemed to pause for a moment when he walked in. In the engineering bay, a couple of Xerath workers exchanged glances when they saw him speaking with Alara. Even some of the human crew members gave him curious looks. It began with small questions. So you and Alara talk a lot, huh? Adravi, technician asked while Liam was fixing a power coupler. Yeah, sometimes, Liam said casually, keeping his eyes on his work. The Dravi gave a toothy grin. Not often a Vaari spends that much time with anyone, especially a human. Liam didn't answer. He didn't like the way the remark was said, half amusement, half something else. Later that day, while walking to the science wing to deliver a replacement part, Liam overheard Tevari scientists speaking in their own language. He didn't understand the words, but he recognized Alara's name. When they noticed him, they fell silent and moved past him without a nod. Inside the lab, Alara was working alone. "Is everything okay?" Liam asked as he set the part on her table. "Yes," she said, though her voice was more clipped than usual. "Some of my colleagues have questions. They do not understand why I spend time with you." Liam frowned. "Because I'm human, partly," she admitted. "They believe interspecies closeness is unwise. Our cultures are very different. They see it as a path that leads to confusion." He let out a slow breath. "Do you care what they think?" She met his gaze, her silver eyes steady. "If I cared, I would not still be speaking with you." That answer stayed with him the rest of the day. By the end of the week, the whispers had grown louder. A supply ship captain from a nearby sector made a joking comment in the cafeteria, loud enough for several tables to hear. "Better not get too attached, human," the captain said with a smirk. "People like you don't last long out here." A few laughed. Liam didn't, before he could respond. Alara looked up from her seat across the room, her gaze locked on the captain. "Calm but cold. People like him kept this colony alive during the last flare," she said evenly. "Perhaps you should remember that before speaking." The captain muttered something under his breath and walked away. The cafeteria went quiet for a moment. Liam realized his heart was pounding. Later, they sat at a table in the quieter corner of the room. "You didn't have to defend me," he said. "Yes, I did," she replied. "You are my friend." The word was simple, but the way she said it carried weight. In the days that followed, Liam and Alara continued meeting during breaks, but they were more careful. Sometimes they spoke in the science wing, away from the crowded cafeteria. Other times they walked the observation deck, where few others went during work hours. They began teaching each other words from their native languages. Liam learned the Veari word Sarethan, a kind of respect mixed with trust. Alara learned the English word companion. She repeated one evening as they walked along the deck. "It means more than just someone near you." "Yeah," Liam said. "It's someone who chooses to stay with you, through the good and bad." She gave a small nod, as if storing the meaning away. But not everyone's disapproval was harmless. One afternoon, while Liam was repairing a damaged comm tower outside the main dome, two Zerith workers approached. They were both bigger than him. Their scaled arms crossed over their chests. "You should be careful," one of them said in the trade language. "The Veari will not follow through with your kind." "You are wasting your time." Liam kept working, refusing to rise to the bait. "Thanks for the advice," he said evenly, "but I don't remember asking for it." They left without another word, but he could feel their stares on his back long after. That night, he told Alara about it. "They think they are protecting you," she said, "but they are protecting their idea of how things should be. My people, and many others, are afraid of change." "Are you afraid of it?" he asked. Her gaze was steady. "No, I am curious about it." Their quiet bond continued to grow, tested by the pressure around them. They shared small moments that no one else saw, a quick smile when passing in the corridor, the way her hand would linger just slightly when she passed him a tool, the calm way they could stand together in silence without needing to fill it with words. For Liam, the colony felt less lonely now, and for Alara, well, she didn't say much, but he noticed she lingered longer in his presence than she did with anyone else. One evening, as they stood on the observation deck, Liam spoke without really planning to. "Does it bother you, all the whispers, the looks?" Alara was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I have spent much of my life being alone. If I must choose between their approval and this connection, I choose this." Liam felt his chest tighten. "That's not nothing, Alara." "No," she agreed softly. "It is not nothing." The stars above seemed brighter that night, as if even the sky had decided to listen. The quiet hum of the colony was shattered by a sudden, loud explosion. In the heart of Orion Outpost, the main habitat dome had suffered a critical breach. A meteor storm, fierce and unexpected, had battered the colony's outer defenses. The thick glass panels cracked, and alarms blared through every corridor. Liam was repairing a power line near the cargo bay when the tremor hit. The ground shook beneath his feet. Instinctively, he dropped to one knee, grabbing the metal railing to keep steady. Emergency, evacuate to safe zones immediately. The loudspeaker commanded. Liam's heart pounded as he raced toward the central habitat. The corridors were already crowded with workers rushing toward designated shelters. When he reached the habitat dome's entrance, he saw Alara standing beside the airlock. Her face was calm but serious, eyes scanning a datapad. "You're here," she said without turning. "I'm not leaving," Liam said firmly. "I'm staying to help." Alara hesitated, then shook her head. "I have been assigned to evacuate. My people's ship is ready." Liam looked at her, confusion mixing with fear. "You can't just leave." She met his gaze. "It is not just about leaving. It is about survival of the colony." But the intercom crackled. "Airlock breach detected. Seal doors now." Without waiting, Alara activated the seal. The heavy doors sliding closed between them. Liam's chest tightened. The emergency shelter was crowded. Liam and Alara sat near the wall, their shoulders almost touching. Outside, the storm battered the dome. Cracks spread across the glass like spiderwebs. "Why didn't you evacuate on your people's ship?" Liam asked quietly. Alara looked at him, eyes full of something he could not name. "Because," she said slowly, "if I leave, this place may fall. You think you can stop it? I must try. The colony is not just rocks and metal. It is home to many. It depends on people like you and me." Liam reached out, his hand brushing hers. The contact was warm, grounding. Over the next hours, the storm raged on. But the colony's workers banded together. Liam helped repair failing systems, guided by Alara's knowledge of the science wing's technology. Together, they worked in the shadows of emergency lights, sharing tools and quiet words. The tension of disaster made their connection stronger. At one point, Liam looked at Alara and said, "I thought you said your people don't form strong bonds." She smiled softly. "Perhaps some rules are meant to be broken." When the storm finally passed, the damage was heavy but not fatal. The colony's systems were fragile but saved. In the calm after the crisis, Liam and Alara stood outside the damaged habitat dome. The two moons of Varen 3 cast a pale light on the cracked glass. "You stayed," Liam said, voice low. "I stayed," she confirmed. He smiled. "I guess maybe me was never a joke." Alara's smile was quiet but full of promise. "Maybe me, forever." The repair crews worked hard to restore the colony after the meteor storm. Broken panels were replaced, systems rebooted, and the damaged habitat dome was slowly made safe again for most workers. Life was returning to its usual rhythm. But for Liam and Alara, everything felt different. They spent more time together now, not just in passing, but sharing meals, quiet talks, and small moments in the observation deck's soft starlight. One afternoon, as they sat watching the two moons of Varen 3 rise, Liam spoke softly. "After everything, I never thought I would feel this way here." Alara smiled, her silver eyes bright. "Neither did I." He reached for her hand, holding it gently. "You changed my world." She squeezed his hand back. "And you changed mine." News of their closeness had spread through the colony, stirring many reactions. Some were curious, some cautious, and others openly skeptical. But the courage they had shown during the crisis gave Liam and Alara a new strength. They became a quiet symbol of hope, proof that different species could understand each other, support one another, and build something new. One evening, the colony commander called them to his office. "I hear you to have become quite close," he said with a small smile. "I want you to know that here, everyone's choice is respected. If you want to make this bond official, the colony will support you." Liam and Alara exchanged surprised glances. "Official?" Liam asked. "Yes," the commander said. "We don't have human or Vayari marriage ceremonies here, but we have something new, a union recognized by the colony, a promise of loyalty and partnership." Alara looked at Liam. "A new tradition," she whispered. Liam nodded. "I like that. Together." They planned a small ceremony, simple and meaningful. It was held in the colony's central hall, where friends and colleagues from many species gathered. Alara wore a delicate silver band, shaped like the intertwined roots of the Sroth bloom plant she had once shown Liam. Liam wore a simple ring, made from a rare metal found only on VERAN-3. They exchanged words of promise, not just love, but loyalty, friendship, and hope for the future. The ceremony was more than a celebration of two people. It was a promise from the colony itself that even in the vast emptiness of space, connection and kindness could grow. That difference was not a barrier, but a bridge. And that the future was something they could build together. After the ceremony, Liam and Alara walked to the observation deck hand in hand. The stars shone brighter than ever. "Do you remember," Liam said, "when I joked about no one marrying me?" Alara smiled softly. I whispered, "Maybe me." He squeezed her hand. "You were right, always," she said.